Alright, this is a recording of the AutoCAD orthographic servo motor assignment. So all of you guys, I just introduced that so when it goes onto the YouTube channel, you'll know what we're talking about. I'm going to go down to the drawing in isometric 2.7 assignment, and this is where the actual, this is where you learned how to do isometric and orthographic, more or less. Okay, and at the bottom there is a bringing it together assignment. These are the different kinds of servos that we often use. In our lab we use the micros almost exclusively. You'll also hear me use the term 9-gram servo for this one. Okay, so if you hear about 9-gram servo, that's what we're talking about. Okay, obviously in this, this assignment was about how to measure an object using a caliper, digital or vernier. That was a part of it. We can't do that right now. We may review those in the next couple days. Basically from there, we're going to create the servo. Okay. The cool thing is I've actually dimensioned one for you. So we're going to actually be using this drawing down here. You're going to be basically matching this drawing that I've created in orthographic using AutoCAD Web App. We'll talk tomorrow or later on today about doing a title block, which is this thing around the outside, and we'll talk in the next day or two about how to turn this into isometric, okay, which is the final real challenge for this skilled level assignment. If that all makes sense, let's talk about how to put this thing in AutoCAD. Okay, we're going to go to the AutoCAD Web App right here. Still recording. Life is good. Still got my mic. Okay, just making sure we got all that correct, and life is good from there. Okay. That being said, let's put this thing together. So I've just started a new drawing in AutoCAD Web App here. Okay, and I'm very simply going to be using this with some layers that I like. We're going to use a drawing layer. Okay, I'm going to make it a nice bright blue because that makes sense. We're also going to have a dimensioning layer because obviously we will have dimensions going on this thing. Nice yellow will do for that. Okay, we're going to turn around, we're going to go to our drawing layer, and we're going to start drawing this particular object. Okay, I'm going to hop back here, and I'm just so you guys know I won't be able to see the chat in the classroom here. Again, microphone's off. If you have any questions, you can anonymously throw them in the chat here. I'm just going to throw the picture of the servo on my other screen so that I have the actual dimensions. Now, how I'm going to break this drawing down is I'm going to actually start with the side view. I'm going to start with this view right here, and I'm going to start with the big rectangle in the middle first. That makes the most sense to me, so I'm going to go ahead and start with it because it's going to make the most sense here. Okay, so I've got a rectangle that is 22.5 units wide. Okay, 22.5 by 22.7. I believe this is all in millimeters. Units tall. Okay. Turn around, and now we've got the start of our drawing. Okay, from here, we're going to use a trick called, we'll call them construction lines for right now, where I know that I've got a space on this guy right here, and I've got a little wing that hangs out on this side and this side. I know that those wings are actually 15.9 units up from the bottom. So 15.9 is going to be a line I'm going to create there. Now you notice that line gives me a nice snap point. Gives me something I can work with. My polar snaps right now should probably be set to 90s. I had them set to 30s because I was drawing some isometric earlier. Okay, I'm going to draw my wing out. We know the wing is 4.7. We know the wing going up is going to be 2.5, and going across is going to be a rectangle. Okay. Now, if we're going to be super lazy about this, and I encourage you to be super lazy about this, the easiest way to make this thing go to the other side is simply to mirror it across the center of this drawing. Okay. And don't delete the source object. Problem solved, life is easy, okay? I also know from my drawings on here that the next thing I have to deal with is another couple rectangles to represent the circles on the top. Those rectangles have a diameter of 11.8. If I do the math of a radius of 1.9, that didn't quite work, okay? I'm actually going to be I'm going to say lazy about this, and I'm going to simply snap this rectangle up to whatever the height is. In this case, the height is 4 units tall. Okay, I'm going to draw a construction line, and I'm just going to draw this until I'm directly in line with that. Notice what I did there. I used ortho snaps. So notice how if I line up with something, like let's say the geometric center, I can create a line that is exactly vertical or horizontal to it. That's going to be hugely, hugely useful when I'm drawing things in isometric or in orthographic. Now, sorry, in isometric orthographic. Orthographic specifically. Isometric, not so much. Again, if there's any questions on this, feel free to fire them into the chat on here, and I'll just read them out and we'll go from there. For the top of this, I'm going to be super lazy. Okay, laziness is good in this sense. in that I'm going to create a top section here that has a diameter of 4.6. Okay, again, a cylinder viewed from the side is going to be a rectangle. Okay, it has a height of 3.2 according to my drawing. Now, obviously this isn't in the right place. Okay, I'm actually going to go back because another thing's bothering me. I had a construction line here. I'm just going to delete it. I can kind of see the construction lines because they're a little bit brighter than the other lines. But now I've got this piece here and it's supposed to be centered on top of this rectangle. So I'm going to, again, be super lazy here and resourceful, we're going to call it. And I'm going to use the move command. Just type in move, off we go. Okay, I also, by the way, have this in my modify menu if I do want it there. Okay, I'm going to float over the midpoint on the bottom here, and I'm going to snap it to the midpoint on the bottom here, thus guaranteeing that those two pieces are in exactly the right spot. There's the front of my servo. It's done. Super easy. Now, I'm not going to draw the side. The side is completely up to you. It is a bunch of lines and rectangles. You should be able to do that in your sleep by now. But let's do the top. And I'm going to draw my top actually on top of this servo here. We're going to make it a little bit proper. And I'm going to start making these things happen. Okay? So the first obvious piece I can do for the servo is I can start drawing the rectangle that goes directly above it. Okay? I know that this is an 11.8 millimeter servo. Okay, I know that it runs across to the edge here. And again, I'm not going to do much measuring. I'm just going to use my ortho snaps. Okay, I'm going to snap corner to corner, corner to corner. Okay, likewise, on the bottom of these, relatively easily, I can simply draw the wings out just using ortho snaps. Okay, again, I encourage you to be resourceful slash a little bit lazy on these things. That's all good. We're going to mirror it across just so that we can get it done fast. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out, and I'm just going to drag this over here to show you where I'm at right now. So far this is done. No problems at all. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to make sure I go down here to the other drawing, and I'm going to actually do these little cutouts and the circles, because that's the complicated piece. So let's go ahead and do those next. Okay, so let's do the circles first, and the circles don't show up on the bottom drawing at all, so I'm starting from scratch. Now I know the circles have the circles themselves are 2.6 units in from the edge, and they are centered. So 2.6 in from the edge, and they are centered. Small circle goes on here. These circles have a radius of 1. That means that I can actually type in a radius of 1. Bonus. Okay, now I'm going to use another tool here in the modify menu that we've kind of touched on, but we haven't used much. This is called the offset tool. The offset tool is actually going to make my life really easy when drawing the next part of this line. So I click on this line, and I actually am able to offset a line away from it, like so. And in this case, I know what my distance is for my offset. Okay, I can actually click here, specify through point, okay, and I'm going to specify this. We know the gap between this line and the next line is supposed to be, the whole gap is supposed to be 1.3, so half of that is going to be 6.5. Okay, that should be 0.65 millimeters. Okay, same thing over here. Now that I've typed in 0.65, I actually have that kind of sorted out here. Life is good. That's the edge of my servo motor. A little bit of a trim happens here. The trim is going to let me cut out the pieces I don't need. Okay, very easily there to there, there to there, there to there, and get rid of that guy. And then there we go. We've got the edge of our servo. Again, encouraging you to be a little bit resourceful. I'm going to mirror this across the middle of the drawing and not delete the source object, and then trim out the part that I don't need here, which is that guy right there. Okay, there's the top of my servo so far. Now I need to put some circles on it. And I'm realizing right now while I'm looking at this that I actually missed a piece of my drawing. Okay, because when I draw the circles, I realized that on my drawing, I actually didn't put this little half circle on top here. That should be this little piece here. I just totally missed it. So I'm actually going to put the circles on to make my life a little bit easier in the web app and to actually finish this up. Okay, so let's start. I know the centers of the circles. Okay, I know that the first center of the first circle is from this end 5.9 millimeters in. Okay, I also know that the first center of the circle on this side is 10.6 millimeters in, all based on my drawing. Now I'm going to draw those circles. This guy here has a radius of 2.5. Done. The guy over here, this one, has a radius of, the big circle has a radius of 5.9. So let's put that in there. And the smallest circle on this side actually has a radius of 2.3, which is 4.6 in half. Okay, there we go. Now I've got the three circles that make up this drawing. I don't need these construction lines anymore. They can just go away. I don't know if there's an actual button in AutoCAD Web App to do construction lines, but in proper AutoCAD, there's actually a construction line button if you want to. We'll play with more of those in 3D. Anyways, I'm going to trim away the piece of this that I definitely don't need, which are those pieces there, to finish off the drawing just like it is. Now that's actually going to be good because that's going to let me actually finish off relatively easily my last line here, which is from the center of this down to a meeting point there, and actually lets me draw the rest of this cylinder in orthographic. Now I'm going to leave this side to you. Side is easy enough to do. You've got all the skills to do it, but I just want to talk about dimensioning this thing. Okay? The beautiful, beautiful thing about orthographic, and I'm just going to go over to my, I'm going to go make this a little more full screen. The beautiful thing about orthographic is that when you draw an orthographic, you don't have to reuse diameter, or you don't have to reuse dimensions. Okay, I'm just going to use the dim tool here, dimensioning, okay? And I'm just going to dimension a few things. I'm going to show you, oops, I just realized that my properties are not set up right. My dim style is set to architecture. I want it to be set to standard. Let's do this, and let's try this again. Dim, okay? In this case, my dimensioning, okay? I'm going to get a dimension right here. It's actually going to do what I want it to do. Okay, now that looks a little small. I'm actually maybe going to go to my properties and see if I can find something a little bit better. Dim style standard. No, I don't have anything except standard. Hey, such is life. Okay, let's see if any of these also will work. Okay, architecture 3.5. Let's throw a dimension on and see if that's big enough. That doesn't quite do what we want it to do. Let's go mechanical. 2.5 looked like it was about right, so let's try it. Ooh, these actually look really good. Let's go with mechanical. Oh, there we go. Okay, mechanical 2.5. Yeah, we'll go with that. Why not? Is there something smaller? Sorry. Just exploring this for the first time. No, there's not. Okay, we're going with standard. Such is life. Okay, basically from here, we're going to make sure that we put these dimensions on where they're supposed to be. Okay, so in this case, I've got something that is 22.5. And since I put this dimension on here, I don't need to reuse that dimension. Under no circumstance should I see you putting another dimension line on here to here. Okay, that obviously turned into an angular dimension, but let's, there we go, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, those dimensions are what we would now call redundant dimensions. They don't add anything to the conversation. They don't need to be there and in the same drawing, so we can remove one of them. You'll notice that when I go ahead and I actually have the the orthographic drawing that I've got here, okay, I've actually only put that dimension in one place, right here. Same thing here. Notice that this side view, it has no dimensions on it at all, because it doesn't need them. Okay, you could draw this entire side piece based on the dimensions that are just in the side and top view. So you always want to be as efficient as possible with your dimensions to make sure that your orthographic looks proper. Now, with that being said, that's probably enough work for you to get started on this project. I'm going to post this as a lesson so that you have to go back and review it. You can. We will talk about putting a title block on it. We will talk about turning this thing into isometric a little bit later in the next couple days. If that all makes sense and there's no more questions, that's the formal lesson piece of this thing. So I'll make sure that gets posted. Cheers.